corner. You got to get going. So we may see a more aggressive Jirov here and see how Mesi can respond.
Harold, how do you have it through 6?
Okay, Jim. 59-55, 5 rounds to 1. Baby Joe Mesi. I got to win him basically because of that right hand. Jim, the accidental headbutt rule is this. If the fight goes beyond 4 rounds, okay, and that cut is made worse by clean, effective punches, we go to the scorecard just like Larry said. Whoever's ahead on the scorecard wins the fight. Now, here's the kicker. If the fight gets stopped in the middle of the round, they score the partial round.
Round 7 out of a scheduled 10. Mesi threw 85 punches in the 6th round after having thrown 88 in the preceding round. And Jirov, according to CompuBox numbers, only threw 22. So the fight has become one-sided in terms of offensive output for the time being. Mesi suddenly turns to a southpaw stance. Jirov misses him wildly. Now Jirov comes back and hits him to the body, and Mesi returns body punches of his own. Get your hands up! Straight right hand lands for Mesi. And again, and the left hook, and the right. And another left hook. Jirov not doing enough to defend himself against Mesi's straight shots.
Mesi is much more accurate with his punches.
Another hard right hand.
Yes. Both guys are very determined, but I think that Mesi seems to be a little bit sharper. It seems to be extremely focused in this fight. I think the criticism he probably got from the Money Barrett fight has really motivated him a lot. And in the fact that he left town, trains different, knowing that he was fighting a guy more experienced and a southpaw.
First fight in Las Vegas.
That's a big factor too. Especially when everything he's did has been in his hometown where he was like the star.
Possibility of setting up a huge fight in Orchard Park in Buffalo this summer. There's even some talk of trying to attract Mike Tyson as the opponent for that fight.
Well, I've been very impressed with him. Now, even though he's gotten hit a little bit tonight, but overall it seems like his focus and determination and concentration is very good tonight.
And he's completely taken over the fight in the last 3 rounds. And Jirov has taken a lot of punishment for a 212-pound guy in his first heavyweight fight. And if you're Phil Torrance, trainer of Vassily Jirov, I think you have to be looking at this carefully and wondering, what can I do to try to get my fighter into some different rip so that he's not taking all this punishment?
I think Jirov, if he could just work his right jab and box at a distance, he would be much better off. But the fight is fighting just the way that Mesi would like it to be right now, right at the same distance and everything.
After the first round in which Jirov outboxed Mesi, Mesi was able to impose his will on Jirov and make this thing into a slugfest which favors his power.
That's not a problem. Clean up his face.
March 16th, catch this month's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Among the stories, a look at one of the biggest basketball scandals of 2003 at perhaps the least likely of places, St. Bonaventure University, a tiny religious school in upstate New York founded by monks.
Box the guy a little bit front. Okay? Box him. Okay.
Hold your head up. Hold your head up.
When you get the punches off, you got to get 2 or 3 shots. Okay.
Hold your head up.
Okay. And come out with your hands up. Okay. Okay? Okay. So you guys trying to build some confidence up. I don't want you to build the confidence. No. Hold. What's the hook? You got it? Come on. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. I love you now, baby.
You know, a lot of people say, well, Joe Mesi is fighting cruiserweight who's bulked up. I would remind everyone that 3 of the top-ranked heavyweights in the world, Jones, Bird, and Tony, all were former middleweights. That 2 of the champions of the 90s, Holyfield and Moore, were former light heavyweights and cruiserweights. Guys of this size have done very well against big men.
Is it possible, Emmanuel, that James Toney took too much out of Vassily Jirov in their fight last summer for Jirov to ever be at his best again?
It could very well be, but even the fights lead into that, you know, Jirov was getting hurt in the fights when he fought Letalo. Also, even when he won the fight, I see was hurt in that fight. And sometimes too many amateur fights can have the effect. You know, maybe he's had 200-300 amateur fights, and there's just so many miles you got on the car.
And has never fought in a self-protective style.
That's correct.
Hard right hand again by Mesi, stuns Jirov.
I'm very impressed with Joe Mesi tonight. And I think this is really the outcome and homecoming fight for him. He's looking very good against a good, experienced fighter. And he's taking some good punches tonight, too.
Taking some very good shots.
Yeah.
He's totally unmoved by them and now just really brutally beating up a pretty good fighter.
But his mental concentration is so good right now. His stamina is able to think. And it's not just a case of Mesi being a natural heavyweight beating a cruiserweight. I mean, he's beating him on skill and techniques, not so much just using physical strength.
Hard right hand by Jirov. Every once in a while, he lands a big shot, but Mesi lands many more. He's basically tripled Jirov in connected punches in the past few rounds.
Watch your head, Vassily.
Landing 3 for every one that Jirov gets in.
Watch your head.
Jirov across the top. Mesi coming back inside. Both fighters look a little tired as they come down the stretch in the 8th. But when you're winning, you're not as tired as when you're getting beaten up.
You see, even though he's tired, Mesi's throwing little short punches, which he can get away with more effective than the looping shots the way that Jirov is shooting his.
Trying to land one big left-hand shot off the ropes to change the general momentum of what's going on here. But among the many things Mesi has shown here tonight, as Larry and Emmanuel pointed out, ability to take a punch. Now he's just brutally roughing up Jirov in the corner.
And Jirov is using the ropes, which is definitely not standard for him being a European fighter, to support himself because he's tired right now.
Jirov looks like a beaten fighter as he walks back to his corner.
2 rounds to go in this one, and in the meantime, Ronald Winky Wright waits in his dressing room for the biggest assignment of his prize-fighting life. He's waited a long time for a fight against a superstar marquee opponent. He's got it tonight. More than 2 years ago, he turned down a fight against Shane Mosley because at that time, he didn't like the price. This time, the opportunity was too good to pass up.
And he took less money than he was offered 2 years ago.
Money isn't everything.
I think he's became more realistic than he was.
At that time, Shane Mosley was considered unbeatable. It was before Vernon Forrest taught him.
And a lot of people are comparing Winky Wright to Vernon Forrest because, like Forrest, he's longer and maybe stronger than Mosley.
And Walter, when you have a guy who's a talented fighter who's been neglected and bypassed, and he finally gets his, in this case, his second opportunity, he's going to try to seize the moment.
But he's going against a great offensive fighter in Shane Mosley. I can't wait. Round 9 of Joe Mesi versus Vassily Jirov. The outcome seems a foregone conclusion unless Jirov can land the big shot and get Mesi in trouble. The big question is, will they finish the fight?
Jirov is now in a position where he's trying to set something up in the hopes of landing one big punch. Hoping that Mesi keeps coming at him.
Well, Jirov has never given up in the fight. Sometimes you see a guy get disgusted and give up. He's never given up. He's still looking for that win, and he still can punch. But Mesi's throwing those over short punches, whereas Jirov's punches has to have such a loop to him, and therefore he's not as effective.
I think it's actually been tremendous for Mesi that the fight has gone rounds. You can see his confidence going up with every round.
Big punch. That was a punch.
Best punch of the fight.
Big left hand by Jirov.
Mesi comes right back at him.
Didn't hurt Joe. 3 right hands by Jirov. Mesi with a left to the body.
But Jirov never really tried to take advantage of that after he had hurt him. He actually ended up letting Mesi come back and take advantage of the situation and become the aggressor.
I'm not sure he thought he had hurt him. I think he may have understood by this point that Mesi can take his punch.
Good point. Mason can sit right now and probably look and see that Jirov is loading up on punches. But I think he just relaxed himself to them. But I think he's gotten comfortable to the point where he's getting hit with punches he normally wouldn't be getting hit with.
And unlike the middle rounds against Barrett, where Mesi seemed to search a little too hard for the knockout, here he's just continued to fight, continued to roll up the punishment, and hasn't started to try to load up.
No, he hasn't tried to load up. But you still got to watch out for those punches from Jirov, because Jirov did something he hadn't been doing earlier. Shot a left hook-type cross.
And down goes Mesi on a right hand across the top after the perfect left shot.
But it's more of a body type, the way he landed and pushed him down. That happens often with standard fighters and southpaws, when one guy catches on the side of the head. I don't think it was hurt as much as it was the balance.
Second fight in a row in which Mesi has gone to the canvas. It was in the 7th round against Barrett. He's decided not to attempt rather than fight here.
Oh, one more minute.
Right to the end of the round.
It's going to be an exciting 10th round.
Go. The fight's close. This one is the one we gotta work.
Early in the round, he landed this left hand right on the jaw. Mace didn't seem to bother Mesi because he saw the punch coming and he was on balance. Later, after he missed the punch and was a little bit off balance, that right hand on the top of the head,
and his body was already in a contorted position at the time, so a lot was a balance.
Behind the head.
Very similar to the knockdown against Barrett when he was caught by a little left hook inside, also while off balance after having thrown a punch.
But he wasn't hurt. It's a 2-point round, though. Even